Okay, I forgot to turn uh, on the microphone in Camtasia, so I've forgotten to record audio onto my videos. So I'm going to do a quick run through. First pack, I pick Vanguard Marauder over Ica Wellspring, which was my other card that I considered, but Vanguard Marauder is so much stronger. And yeah, Vanguard Marauder. Uh, I don't. If I were to, if I had any inclination to play anything else than green, then I would have taken the Ica Wellspring. But I don't mind playing green, so I take the Vanguard Marauder and be happy with it. And for the next pack, I have a choice of basically it's Blisterstic Shaman, Skinwing, or Virulent Wound. Um, Out of these cards, I think Skinwing is the best because it suits a dinosaur deck the best to have be having the opportunity of sending things to the skies. And Blisterstic Shaman isn't really worth taking as a second pick. It's a strong card, and it is almost always going to kill one of the opponent's guys, be it a mirror or a smith or whatnot. But in a dinosaurs deck, Skinwing will be better. Plague Mirror is an option as well, but it's not as good as Skinwing outside of Infects. So the next pack has got a Kuldorfa Flame Fiend and the Burn Beam Pure. This is a clear signal that red is possibly open coming from the left. No, coming from the right. Um, and out of these two, the Flame Fiend is clearly the stronger card, so that's one I'm going to pick. But we have to be aware that we do send a red card. But if we can cut it off as of now, we should have a good pack 2 and pack 3 in red. The next pack has got several good cards. There's a Strandwalker, a Spread the Sickness, and an Ica Wellspring. Um, Given that I've just taken the Kuldorfa Flame Fiend, I'm a lot more inclined to take the Ica Wellspring than I would otherwise be. Strandwalker is a really good card, but Ica Wellspring has so many synergies in so many decks that includes an Archie Dinosaurs deck that I think it's the better pick here. The Spread of the Sickness would push us into a third collar, which I'm not very keen on doing so early. If it had been a fourth or fifth pick, a sixth or seventh pick, then I would see that. Then I would consider blacks to be open. But now it could just be that my they have had the choice of stronger cards like the Flesh Eater Imp or something like that. So fourth pick was Ica Wellspring. And fifth pick, we see another black card in Phyrexian Ranger, but we see a Melira's Keepers. And that card is nuts against infects, and it's good against almost every deck because it's a 4/4 for 5, and that's healthy size. Tangle Mantis is a card that I actually like, but it's not the strongest, and it's certainly not as strong as Melira's Keepers. So Melira's Keepers, back 5. Pack 6, there's another Tangle Mantis, but there's a Looming Greek Gargoyle, which I think is really good. It's larger than most of the other flyers. There's I can't, except for Consecrated Sphinx, which is a mythic rare, I can't think of one that is by itself larger right now. There are some cards that can block it and survive, especially when they are equipped, but having larger than 3/3 in Disguise is as good as you could hope for. There is, again, there was a Tangle Mantis, but the Gargoyle is stronger. There is a Nathasaur, but I'm not going to be lacking in the 6-drop department. I did consider Cops Courier because because it's a solid green, solid red card, but Blooming Good Gargoyle, 6 pick. Seventh pick, and we see a second Treasure Mage. There is also an Augur Resistor, a Rusted Slasher, and a Spin Engine. So there is red is still open as a color. Spin Engine and Augur Resistor are both very decent red cards, and Rusted Slasher goes well in many decks. But for me, Augur Resistor is the strongest card. A 4/3 for 4. It's aggressive. It's big and brutal. So first Augur Resistor as a 7th pick. 8th pick, we have the choice of Resistor, Ringleader, or Concussive Bolt. Concussive Bolt is at its best in a straight Metalcraft deck, and playing RG Dinos, which this still looks most likely to be, we are not going to have Metalcraft very many times, so Resistor is the better card, and Ringleader, we do want to have the possibility to block with our guys, and Ringleader doesn't fit that description, so Resistor is the pick. And from our opening pack, we get a Crushback. It's a card that I like. I think it's certainly better than Hexblade Golem. Carapace Forger, Copper Carapace is not as good in our deck as in an aggressive deck. And then I'd much rather have the Crush to 2-for-1 my opponent. When he attacks with his equipped creature, I will just crush the equipment and kill the guy. The rest of the cards aren't interesting to us. Crush is the pick. Then we get a choice of Rusted Slasher versus Unnatural Predation. And though Rusted Slasher is a good card to have with an Ichor Wellspring, I think that having the possibility to give my guys trample out of nowhere with the predation is worth more than having an extra sacrifice outlet to the Ichor Wellspring. So I take the Unnatural Predation. And as a gift, we get a second choice at the Rusted Slasher, and this time I take it. Rusted Slasher is quite nice with Metallic Masteries. You will just take your opponent's artifacts and use them to your own delights, topping it off by sacrificing them to Rusted Slasher. Unless, of course, they can be sacrificed by themselves. So, Rusted Slasher. And the last packs were nothing to worry about. Going to the second pack, we have it's not a very exciting first pack, opening pack. There is an Argentum Armor foil and a Stratosky. Both are decent equipments if you run smaller guys, or if you have unblockable guys. But we don't have those kind of guys. We just have big brutal guys which don't need equipment to be big and brutal. So instead of taking one of the two big nasty equipments, I go for the Ironmere to be able to get to my big and brutal guys. There was also a Necropede, Tangle Cord, and maybe I should mention Untamed Might, but for our sakes, the Ironmere is the best card. And now the second pick, pack 2, is where we really curse the ability not to take more than one card in the pack. Because in this pack we have a Galvanic Blast, a Perilous Mirror, an Embersmith, and a Silvok Replica. Out of these cards, I would gladly take those 4 cards and not take anything basically for the rest of this pack. It's got some of the things that you really must have in any deck. There's an artifact or any target destruction for artifact and enchantment in the replica. There is a Galvanic Blast to shoot any small guy, and it can be aimed at the opponent's head. There is a Perilous Mirror, which is just it's the best mirror. Second best mirror in a vacuum is probably Necropede, but the best mirror is Perilous Mirror. And then we have an Embersmith, which can just, if it's left unchecked, it can either just wreck the opponent's board by killing him off, or you can use it to start aiming damage at your opponent's head. Out of these cards, seeing as we are starting to pick up quite a few artifacts, we have 6 artifacts, but we have 2 cheap artifacts, I think that Embersmith will have the most potential in our deck, especially since it can help us survive the early game by killing off the small guys on the opponent's side. So Embersmith, though we would happily take another 3 cards in this pack. And the next pack we have, it's nothing for us. There are 3 great white cards, the Glinthawk Idol, and the Dispense Justice. There is a decent blue card in the Looming Greed Drake, but apart from that there's nothing. So for our deck, we still don't have any 3-drops, so I go for the Ferrovore, since it can, I've seen it come from nothing, squeezing it through with any kind of evasion and just sacrifice your useless artifacts and go from 2 damage to 13 damage or 14 damage and just kill your opponent in 1 turn. So Ferrovore, on the opposite chance that we will be able to abuse it. This was a chance of jumping onto a small white. If we could change the white here, but I think it's better to just stay on track with the red card. The next pack has got a Vulshock Replica and a Horizon Spellbomb. The replica is fine, and I do like it quite a lot, but in a Dinosaurs deck, and also with Embersmith, I prefer to have the Horizon Spellbomb because it gives me an opportunity to draw a card, search for a land, and possibly shoot something on turn 3 with the Embersmith. That all in all makes it a better card than the Vulshock Replica, and it's more likely that I will be picking up replicas rather than Spellbombs later on in the packs. Here's something quite unexciting. There is an Azuris Archer, which is worthless in our deck. I wouldn't. There are so many other ways to handle flying creatures that Azuris Archer is on the bottom half of my list of flying defense. I would take it as a sideboard card if it was like 10th pick, but I will not take it any higher than that unless I'm a dedicated elf running a dedicated elf deck, which isn't really possible. So instead there's the Tel'Shla Defiance, which does something. It can make equipments fall off. It can it can help you punch through with a Ferrovore. It's more versatile, and it draws you a card. So Tel'Shla Defiance. Now we get the chance. Well, it's not much of a chance. There's a very late raise a Hippogriff, but we are solidly out of white. We have good red cards, we have good green cards, and no real reason to switch into a double white flyer, even though it's a good card. So instead, we turn to other cards, and there's a Carapace Forger and an Azuri's Archer. The same reasoning goes here. Carapace Forger actually does something. It's a 2/2 for 2. The clock is much faster, and with Metalcraft it's a big guy. Whereas the Azuri's Archer is a 1/2 which hits for little, and yeah, it's much worse. Viridian Revel has its uses in some decks, but this doesn't look like it's going to be one of those. So Carapace Forger. It's also an early drop that helps us get to the late game. Now here's a gift. As it was Spider, this late means that there is at most one other green drafter, which is not Infect. It's possible that there is no other green drafter apart from Infect. But here's the choice between an Acid Web Spider and a Horizon Spellbomb. And though I like the Spellbombs a lot, this Spider will not get away from us. It makes it possible to handle any nasty equipment like the Stratoscribe and the Argentum Armor that we passed earlier. And here there's nothing for us. There's a Foil Island, a Clone Shell, and a New York Replica. Those were the cards that I considered. Oxina Daredevil is nothing for this deck. We're not playing Celebrations. Replica is a fine card. Clone Shell is a fine card. I consider Clone Shell to kind of abuse my guys and get instant speeds, Marauders, Gargoyles, and Flame Fiends, but in the end I took the Replica just because I might actually want to have something to defend myself with on turn 3. Now our opening pack came back to us, and it still has a Wall of Tanglecord in it, which is fine for us. We scoop that up and be happy with it. We get more and more things to shoot with the Embersmith. And apart from that, there is a Tel'Shilad Fallen, which is quite late, but we're not going to play Infect. And here there's a choice between a Hellion and a Cisbearer. I think that our 6 slot is quite full at the moment, and I'm not sure that I will be playing the Hellion because it has the clause of having to attack each turn. So I'm just going to scoop up this Cisbearer to avoid having one of those incredibly strong and awesome Infect decks going against us. And here's where things just start to drop off. We get a Daredevil, a White Replica, Melterrain, and Rebel. So the last pack. We open another one of those packs where we want to have multiple cards. There's a Shatter, Replica, Archtrail, and Fencerslag, as well as a Perilous Mirror. The obvious choice to me is Archtrail, because we want to clear the way for our big guys, and Archtrail does just that. Palladium Mirror deserves an honorable mention because we go from 4 mana turn 4 to 6 mana turn 4, which includes Gargoyle and Marauder. That's the best acceleration you can have right now. But my choice were between Archtrail and Shatter, and Archtrail is just the better card. Slag is awesome as well, but Archtrail. Always and forever Archtrail. Second pick, third pack. There is only 2 cards in our colors. It's an Ironmere and a Blade-Tried Berserker, and I'd much rather have multiple mirrors to accelerate us into the heavy hitters than playing a Berserker, which I feel is a lot worse than the Resistors. So the pick is an Ironmere, and we ship the white once more, and then have a heavy Arbalest, but Ironmere is our pick. And now we get a pack with another Ferrovore, but I will not be playing two. I don't want off-color mirrors in this deck. Now that I already have two on-color mirror, I don't see no reason to take an off-color mirror. I'd much rather take a Necropede, which is a really good defensive 2-drop, especially against Infect, where it can kill one guy and shrink another. So it's basically a 2-for-1 against the Infect. And other than that, there's nothing for us. There's a Soliton plus Heavy Arbalest in the same pack, so somebody who took the last Heavy Arbalest will most likely pick up this Soliton. And moving on, here's a pack where we've got for possibilities for our deck is once more an off-color mirror, but there's also a Kuldotha Rebirth and a Panic Spellbomb. The Kuldotha Rebirth does have a couple of synergies with Ichor Wellspring and Necropede, but Panic Spellbomb, the effect isn't irrelevant, and it also draws us a card if need be. So my pick here is the Panic Spellbomb to just increase the impact of our Embersmith and make it possible for us to run with fewer lands with the draw ability. Now we get the choice of Darksteel Sentinel or Flameborn Hellion. The best aggressive card of these is the Hellion. The better defensive card is the Sentinel. And I would say that in this deck, I wouldn't really like to run any of those. I do pick the Darksteel Sentinel, but I immediately regret it, because I think that Flameborn Hellion is a slightly better card in this type of deck that we are shaping up to get. One where we hopefully play mirror, play resistor, play big guy, bash, 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 bash. And in those decks, a 5/4 haste is better than a 3/3 flash vigilance. So unfortunate that we didn't take the right card, but we did at least we did get a card in the same slot, which we ended up not playing. And here for pick 7, is it? No, 6. For pick 6, there is a Rusted Relic and a Sylvak Replica. Of those cards, the Rusted Relic is by far the better, even though Rusted Relic will be alive in our deck as it is right now, quite often. But still, Sylvak Replica is more versatile and kills things. Something that we aren't very high on as yet. And here we get a gift, an Azura's Brigade. An 8/8 for 4 mana is something that you very rarely pass on. So we scoop that up and just move into a hopefully really a mid-game deck where you play a big guy and then ride into victory. There was a Saberclaw Golem in this pack, but the Brigade is a lot better. Here's a highly unexciting pack. I just take the biggest guy out of this pack, which is the Bleak Coven Vampire, because it actually blocks and kills my guys. I'm not playing Culling Days in this deck, and especially not playing Assault Strobe, which is, if you are lucky, it's a 1/1, otherwise it's just bad. it is bad. And then we get the choice of a replica or a life staff. I'm not going to take a Bleak Coven Vampire out of this pack because there is valid choices to be made. The life staff is a early ping for the Embersmith. The replica is a more mid-late game kind of guy, where it's also a bit better defensively against Infect because it trades with the Cyst Bearer. But I take the life staff partly because it offers me a chance, another chance to shoot with the Embersmith, and partly because I already have 20 creatures, or 20 creatures that I wouldn't mind playing, and that makes Bullshock Replica a lot less likely to make the final deck. Here there's basically nothing. I get a Blade-Tribe Berserker, which will most likely not make the deck because my 4 drops are better than that. Moving on, we get a bunch of nothing and move on to the deck building. And the deck was quite easily made. I had a packet of good red cards that I would most likely play, a pack of good or quite good green cards that would make the deck, and a bunch of artifacts. So in the end, I had to cut some things, and one of the main choices was whether to play Crush or Unnatural Predation, and in the end, I thought that my deck would like the destruction more than anything else. As you can see, I still haven't added the Sylvok Replica to the final deck here either. And other than that, the Darksteel Sentinel was left on the sideline because he's not aggressive enough. And yeah, so it's minus Predation and Sentinel plus Crush and Sylvok Replica. So here's the final deck, running 16 lands, 8 mountains, 8 forests, and yeah, it's basically a deck that wants to draw, have a starting hand of Ironmere and a 4-drop. If it does get that, then it's got a very good chance at winning because we have the turn 3 4-drop will be a strong 4-drop. Skinwing being the worst, and Rusted Slasher coming next. The Resistors and the Brigade would be awesome to drop turn 4. And once we get past that, we have big guys, Marauder and Flame Fiend, which will win drawn out games, and the Gargoyle to punch through the air. So yeah, this was the final deck, and we will move into the rounds now.